this next session is all about building that culture with the help of recognition. And so Gabriella, Mary, and Allison will share a ton of stories and strategies that they've seen their own teams or other teams use to create that thriving high recognition environment and ended up earning rewards and awards for it. And so we're hoping to explore the habits, programs, mindsets that help them get there, and how you might be able to bring some of those own ideas to your own organizations. And so please welcome me in the chat in welcoming our incredible panelists. We have Alison Grenier, who is the head of culture and research at Great Place to Work Canada. We also have Mary Newville, who is the director of people experience at Arctic Wolf, and they are part of the Bucketlist family. Gabriella Baciu, who is the Vice President, Talent and Culture at Dialogue. And so before we fully dive in, I just want to go around the room and have each of you share a bit more about yourselves. Would love to hear more about the current organization you're working with, your professional journey, and what perspective you're hoping to bring to the conversation today. And so, Gabriella, I'll start with you.
Why, thank you. And thank you for having us to talk about such an important topic of recognition. And Mary, congratulations on your award. I know there's a lot of effort and intention that goes into winning these awards, and it is not a one-man show, or one-woman show, I should say, to reach it. So I'm Gabriella Baciu. I work for Dialogue. I've been here now for 7 years. You mentioned, Rebecca, a bit of our journey. I actually started my journey at Dialogue building the customer success team. So helping organizations reach their ambitions and really helping people lead healthier lives, because our principal people who offer this benefit of dialogue are in HR. They're the ones that are building business cases and that have been seeing really a shift in the role of employers in the last 10 years, which is to say, well, if we want people to be successful, we need to think of their whole selves. To be successful. And it is a part of our duty as employers to make sure they have the right benefits, they have the right recognition, we invest in the right culture for them to reach this. And this is where dialogue comes into play. So we're a health and wellness company. We employ actually our healthcare professionals. So we are across Canada. We were really the first to want to disrupt the experience of healthcare in Canada, and asking ourselves, well, how come we're not coming in on this journey? So I saw some of you are in the United States. 10 years ago, the virtual landscape wasn't very present in Canada, and we had a very traditional brick and mortar approach. So now we were asking ourselves, well, how do we give more of this experience? How do we treat people that are unwell in the comforts of their own home, and come and complement our healthcare here in Canada? So my journey brought me actually to this talent and culture role just last year, where I've been able to really focus on how do we take the best practices of dialogue and apply them across the organization, to say them loud and proud as we have won this award, and really to continue to build a strategic plan that will continue to elevate our talent for years to come.
Amazing. Thank you, Gabriella. Mary, would you like to go next?
Yes, absolutely. Delighted to be here this morning with all of you. My name is Mary Newville. I am our Director of People Experience at Arctic Wolf. I am in San Antonio, Texas, representing with a little bandana today. But at Arctic Wolf, we're on mission to end cyber risk. We want to see the world be a safer place for people to thrive, and we protect organizations from cyber risk. And in people experience, our job is to protect our pack, which is what we call our employees, and to curate an environment that brings about people's best, but that also helps attract the best talent to the pack so that we can achieve that mission of ending cyber risk. I'm excited to contribute to this conversation today. I really think that us in the world of HR have such a powerful role in community. And when we can create a beautiful and thriving work world for someone that overflows into their personal lives and their communities, and with people spending the majority of their lives, or a huge portion of their lives at work, the impact that we can make through amazing cultures that bring about people getting to utilize their strengths and bring their authentic selves and find real connection and community and purpose. Just what a cool opportunity we have to make a life-changing impact in people's lives, and just the ripple that effect that can have in our communities and world. And we all know we need that right now.
Thank you, Mary. Alison?
I'm Alison Grenier, Head of Culture and Research for Great Place to Work. This is my third Bucketlist Recognition Week, so really happy to be with you again. Lots of great ideas going on in the chat, which I think is one of the powerful pieces of this format. I've been with Great Place to Work for over 15 years now, and my role right now is Head of Culture and Research, but truthfully, I've done most roles over my tenure there. We started out with just 3 people in our organization in Canada. So we're part of a global organization, Great Place to Work. And we are very much a mission-driven organization. Our mission is to build a better world by helping to create great places to work for all. And I just want to pull on something you said, Mary, which is when people are having a great experience at work, it does indeed overflow into their personal life, their contributions to community, and so on. So that's really how I anchor myself in the mission. And so really happy to be with you today. Thanks for including me.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for sharing. I'm very excited for this conversation. So let's dive into the first question. We're here today to talk about, the impact of winning an award or building a culture that can win awards. And so whether it's Great Place to Work or some other awards, it's definitely a huge accomplishment. And so I want to start a conversation off by asking, what does it mean to you as an HR leader to win an award like this, and how has it shaped your company culture? Gabriella, I'll toss this one to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great honor. You put in all these initiatives and this intention, and Mary, Alison, you've gone through what you have done as leaders as well to have that impact. And when you actually get the news that you won the award, it means you're checking all the mark. It means that you reach those ambitions because this award is actually filled in by your employees. So there's no way to hack it. There's no way to go around it. It's essentially our employees telling us the pulse of the organization. And we deeply believe at Dialogue that our talent is a key driver of our strategy. I like to say, I don't know an organization that doesn't have talent today. So if you want to have an ambition to change the world, to make it a safer place, to bring a new product that people need, you need to have the incredible talent behind and being the engine of that strategy. I would also say, as I was mentioning earlier, because we work with HR every day, we actually had our Dialogue Awards evening just yesterday with hundreds of HR professionals in our offices receiving awards for their contribution to health and wellness in their organization. We get to say, look, we're real, like we're here helping your employees and their families with their well-being, but we're also investing in our culture, in our talent, in our development, in everything that makes our company whole. So that is definitely really meaningful to come as hand in hand. Not only is it good for our talent, but it's also with our peers and those that we work with in the community. It's a great recognition.
That's amazing. You've received awards and recognition, and you're also doing the same for others, just kind of starting that recognition trickle effect and shouting out people who are, making the world a better place. No, that's awesome.
100%.
Yeah. Mary, what are your thoughts on winning awards like this?
Yeah, I can piggyback off of what Gabriella shared. Gabriella just said, I think that you all believe your talent brings about your strategy. And we say the same thing at Arctic Wolf. We believe that our culture is our differentiator that allows us to deliver our mission, which is the promise we've made to our customers to end cyber risk. And so when we win awards like this, like Gabriella said, it's validation that we're not just saying or having vision to create this culture or to do these things or to have these values. It's our employees, our pack, what do we call our employees at Arctic Wolf? We call ourselves the pack. It's our pack members saying, yes, this is who we are. But it's also a point of pride for the whole pack because culture is something that we co-create together every single day. And so it's part of their experience too, to share, I have contributed to this culture. I'm also sharing what I think about it. And when we win, we make sure to celebrate because it is a win for everybody that shows up every day, not just to do their jobs, but contribute to the environment and how they show up for and with each other, so that we can win awards like this.
I love what you said about validation of what it is you think your culture is. It's completely validated by people answering yes to it and then winning the award. No, that's really powerful. And Tess in the comments just giving you a shout out that she loves the idea of your pack and like branding your culture so everyone understands the mentality that they should be kind of living in there. So no, that's really cool. And I know you'll share more examples as we
It's like buckle up, lots of wolf puns coming today.
There a t-shirt, a wolf t-shirt?
We actually do. I'm not wearing one at this moment, but we've definitely got all the wolf swag.
Amazing. And Tess says pack translates as Ohana and family, which is like another layer of meaning in there for you. Amazing. So yes, we've just discussed on an individual level, it's something that's super validating. Your team gets excited about it. And so let's talk a bit about the business side of things. What does winning an award like this do for your business, and how has it impacted, business goals like retention, overall performance? Alison, I know you have tons of thoughts around this topic, so I'll pass it to you first.
Sure, and just want to echo what you both said, Mary and Gabriella, about it doesn't start with the recognition, it starts with your strategy. And the recognition is really validation that you have the culture in place that's going to help you achieve your strategy. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So, as I mentioned, we're a mission-driven organization. We want to build a better world. Obviously, when people have a great experience at work, it has that spillover effect into all elements of their lives. So great cultures are definitely great for people. I think everybody in this room will agree with that. But what we don't always think about are the business benefits of creating that great culture. And so we have a ton of research on this, linking business benefits to high trust workplaces. That's what we measure in our survey. And what we have found over a 20-year study is when you look at two groups of organizations, the ones recognized on our list of best workplaces and regular workplaces, the best are outperforming the rest by a factor of at least 4 on the stock market performance. Okay, so that's a big thing, right? So we know that high trust workplaces, those that are being recognized for their culture, they're going to have better financial results. But it doesn't end there. So one thing we also noticed through our data, and I will say, we run the world's largest annual workplace survey. Our survey represents almost 25 million employees around the world now. So we use that data to kind of do this sort of thought leadership and research. So in terms of the financial performance, turnover is an obvious one. When you have a great culture, you're going to turn your turnover in half. You're going to attract way more job applicants because people want to be part of your pack, part of your team, your community. But we're also seeing other benefits of the high trust. So even within the companies we work with, when people agree that they have a great workplace, they're going to extend way more discretionary effort. For instance, people willing to give extra to get the job done. They're going to be those brand ambassadors for your company. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this as a great place to work to my family and friends. It extends to customer service. So I could go on forever, but I think it's been well established that there's, creating a great workplace culture, getting recognized, that's great for people, but it's also great for business. One other thing I will just say in my 15-year tenure with Great Place to Work is I've noticed an explosion of employer recognition programs. So I'm obviously most familiar with ours, which is Great Place to Work certification, but there's a whole bunch of other ones out there now that all have their rigid methodology as well. The very fact that there's been an explosion of this type of recognition and a demand for it means that people get it. People get the connection between culture and business performance, right? So the very existence of this thing, which is employer recognition, I think underscores the importance of culture in driving business results. So, and I'll just say one last thing, because when we think about the benefits of getting recognized for your culture, we often think of the external benefits. I'm going to attract more talent. I'm going to have better reputation in the community. But equally powerful is what it does for your existing employees as like a point of pride. We heard Mary and Gabrielle both talking about, what that does for their own employees. So I just want to make sure we're including that in the mix as well, is the benefit it has on the employees that already work there, that they've earned this recognition.
I love that you mentioned this, Alison, because it makes me think of so many things. First, the importance of trust and how that is not just business objectives, but the ways that we work. And also, I've seen a shift in the workplace in the last 20 years. There was a time when engagement felt much more like a check in the box, like something you did annually and you went and got the pulse and maybe you built one or two initiatives. But we're seeing that we're now looking at engagement on a weekly basis, on a regular basis, having data points that continuously allow us to develop the right strategies, but also short-term incentives that will bring us to our best selves and to implicate our culture. And also, if ever there's a change, right now we're looking at different economical realities. Well, how is that affecting our team members, and how are we thinking of the ways that we can help and support them? So I find it's been really interesting that we're really seeing that it's not just a job. It's actually a way to fulfill ourselves and to be our best selves. And then how do we combine the two to be effective and to fulfill ourselves? When you mentioned about the reward and how it's a celebration is how I heard it, Alison, because when we won, we had our all hands and we all celebrated. Like, we are thrilled because, to your point, we're proud. It's even something actually we've seen with Dialogue, that we keep on renewing our referral program, actually, because people are so proud of our culture and of who we are that we're getting referrals, and we want to make sure we're making it clear. We've just extended the duration from 6 months when you refer someone to 12 months, because depending on the hiring cycle, depending on how many job openings we have, maybe we're hiring that person at the 5th month mark or at the 8th month mark. And that person is someone that, dialoguers brought to us because they wanted to work and collaborate with these people. So it is just so important. And I just want to tell you, we have it on our website. We have it in our presentations on who we are at Dialogue. When we were a public company, we also had it in our investors' notes. Like, we really scream it loud and proud because it is so meaningful to us to have these awards that actually attest to the initiatives and the strategy we develop.
Yeah, and
I love to hear that.
I love all the data you share, Alison, about just the research that Great Place to Work has seen in terms of what great culture brings to drive business deliverables in terms of financials and tenure and all that good stuff. I think about when, Rebecca, you ask the benefits of an award like this on our business. In addition to everything Alison said, I think, Alison, when you talked about, like, we're seeing more and more awards out there because people get how big of a deal this is. I think probably everyone on the call can relate to when you're job searching. I know I do this. I go on Instagram. I go on, Twitter, formerly LinkedIn, and I'm searching the company. I want to see what employees are saying about the company. I don't just want to see the pretty marketing page. And winning awards like Great Place to Work, that is earned through employees. It's not something you can pay for. As a company, you can't just be like, oh, we really want this like validation that we're an awesome place to work. There are some awards you can do, but like, people trust Great Place to Work and Top Workplace and some of those other programs, and know that if they see that, they can know that employees are validating this is a great place to work. So in cybersecurity, there's a huge talent shortage. There's way more jobs than there are people to fill them. Cybersecurity is in the top 20 fastest growing careers in the United States. And we have a huge mission to end cyber risk. We need the best and the brightest and people that are excited to not only bring their skill set to the workforce, but also we're so passionate about our culture and our pack. We need people that are going to contribute to this ecosystem of connection, community, building each other up, winning together. And to do that, you have to have the best company that everyone wants to work for. So having these awards really gives that validation, so we can be that first choice employer. And when people are looking for jobs, even if they haven't heard of us yet, when they start to do the research, it's a no-brainer that if they got a job offer, they would want to say yes to Arctic Wolf.
I love that. All these points are so great to think about. And just to wrap up this section around getting awards and all of that before we hop into, building the magic, I just want to end off with one last question because I know that the process of getting certified can be super daunting and overwhelming, especially if you've like never done it before. So I was curious to hear a bit more about the certification process. And so I guess from Allison's point of view, but also from Mary and Gabriella's point of view, doing it with the employees, how was that experience? So Allison, we'll start with you.
Okay, so the process may seem daunting, but it's actually a very simple process. Companies come to us saying they want to be Great Place to Work certified. They may believe they're there already, or maybe they think they're not there yet and they need to improve. Either way, they sign up, they complete a very short culture questionnaire, and then we survey their employees on our platform. We're on a great tech ecosystem now called Emprising. People can launch their own survey. You just upload your employee list that comes right from your HRIS, and you're off to the races. Very, very easy process. Once the survey closes, if your trust score, your trust index average meets our minimum threshold, then you become Great Place to Work certified. It's as simple as that. There's no other steps required. And we give you the badge and the promotion process. So you earn the right to use our badge for an entire year once you're Great Place to Work certified. This is really important because we know culture is a constant evolution, a constant process. So just because a company became Great Place to Work certified in 2011 doesn't mean they're still a great place to work. So the relevance and the recency of the certification is really important as well. And so then once you're certified or not certified, you have the opportunity to work with a culture coach. They will help you debrief your results, action your feedback. And sometimes companies work with us for that. Sometimes they might have additional internal surveys they do. Either way, it's all good. You can still become Great Place to Work certified. And we know that there's many reasons somebody would want to get certified. Branding comes to mind, right? They want to have that brand, that seal of approval on their culture. But a lot of companies come to us saying, we just want to improve. We just want the data, right? So I think it's important to recognize that these two things can go hand in hand, that you're improving and getting recognized along the way.
Yeah, and I can speak to that because at Arctic Wolf, we use surveys both for branding, for engagement, for recognition, improvement, all of the things. I didn't mention this in the intro, but Arctic Wolf, we are, I think, 14 years old now, so we're kind of a mature startup, if you will. And in my first couple of years at Arctic Wolf, we went from 500 employees in 2 countries to 2,000 employees in countries all over the world, and going from just 2 offices in the US and Canada to now 10 offices in Germany, UK, India, and all over the US. And so it was really important for us to grow our brand in these areas that we had never been before and where our presence may have not been known. So we participate in a lot of surveys around the world, and we are proud to be Great Place to Work certified for 5 years in a row in both Canada and the US. But now I think we're going on our 3rd year of being Great Place to Work certified in the United Kingdom. But we're really transparent with our employees. So we show them, we're like, hey, here are all the employees here are all the surveys that we participate in where we are looking for employer branding because we want to build our brand as a top workplace in other markets. And here's our internal survey. And this is the survey that we're going to be looking at the data, looking for areas to improve, because we're going to talk about this later, but there's a lot of work that goes into creating these award-winning cultures. And a lot of that is co-created through listening and responding to employee feedback. But we're transparent about which surveys we are going to be responding to and which surveys we are just going to be using as a tool for building our brand if we win. So we kind of have our little chart, and it's like, here's all our surveys for external branding. Here's our internal survey for culture improvement. We appreciate your honest and candid, transparent feedback in both types. So we really try to encourage participation in all types. We want people to feel empowered to be transparent and honest in both types. but we just want to set the expectation so they know they're not pouring their heart into this survey and then wondering, hey, why didn't we improve XYZ, or my manager didn't talk to me about the feedback. So we try to create this ecosystem and be really transparent about what we use each survey for and what surveys we're going to dig into and respond to feedback. And then when we do win awards, like we talked about earlier, we're really intentional to celebrate with the pack, to say, hey, we know you had to take 10, 20 minutes to do that survey. We really appreciate it. It did result in this. And that's a reflection of you. It's a reflection of all of us creating this culture together. And so we definitely get treats in. Just, like, we're really appreciative of people taking the time to complete the surveys. So that's how we kind of set up our survey strategy, if you will.
Treats for the pack. I like it. It's interesting because we're very similar, Mary, in that celebration. Like I mentioned before, it's in our all hands. It's everywhere we go. But we're so intentional about the importance of surveying that for us, employee engagement is a weekly survey of a few questions. We use a tool to be able to do this, and it's on the scorecard of every single executive, every single manager, their actual employee survey that has 8 pillars of engagement that are very aligned to Great Place to Work. So this is where we're getting constant pulse. And I was mentioning earlier, we can make adjustments if we see there's a change in satisfaction, in recognition, in growth, and build really tangible, concrete plans. We even encourage our leaders to review those engagement surveys with their employees, because it's not just meant to be a manager's job or a leader's job in a corner. It's actually meant to be discussed and understood. And I always remind leaders, the point is not to say one person said this. It's actually, how do you get to this discussion? And Mary, you're talking about co-creation. It is very strong for us here as well. If we want to solve some of the challenges that we have, we want to do it together. And if we want to celebrate how we're excelling at relationship with manager, we also want to do it together. So that's one of the key elements. And then when it comes to Great Place to Work, we actually leverage all of these touch points to talk about our ambitions, to put ourselves out there and get that, you said pride, and also really that framework, right? A tested, true framework of recognition for our organization. So we will mention it in all our all hands. We post it in our channels. We ask leaders to remind their employees to fill it, but with a sense of who do they feel they are, and as employees in the organization, and how to ensure to respond truthfully, right? And this is where we find that it all combines together, that we get enough responses and that we also celebrate together. And in regards, I saw a comment in the chat on the weekly. It's an interesting tool. This is called Office Vibe. And what their framework is you can choose how many questions you send out and the frequency. Some organization will choose weekly, bi-weekly. It really depends. But what's interesting is that engagement doesn't happen just on a day. It's throughout time. So you get pulses of, a slew of 80 questions or whatnot, but you get to see it through time and take action, and you get to break it down through the different structures of your organization. So you would have a manager, for example, to the director and his team or her team, VP, and so on. Yeah, an org chart. But everyone gets to understand their impact within their respective group, and it's really well structured with even recommendations of how you can do this. The most important piece of whether it's this tool or another is, how do you get the pulse? How do you understand what's going? And how do you then leverage that voice of your employees to shape your initiatives and your strategies?
Amazing. Thank you both, or all three of you, for those responses. So now I would love for us to talk a little bit more about, bringing the magic of the culture to life. And I know for our icebreaker question, we all shared a couple of ideas of how we've been doing some fun things to get people engaged and really start building that community at work. And so I would love to hear from all of you. Tell me more about the culture that your team has built. And looking back at the past year, what initiatives or goals did your organization prioritize to strengthen that workplace culture? And Mary, I'll pass it to you first.
Yeah, there is so much I could say on this topic. There's a lot of things going on, but I'm going to focus on one example. I think Gabriella just did a really great job talking about how important it is to get employee feedback and really have it be something that's not just done every once in a while or only seen by top level leaders, but throughout the whole organization, it is discussed. And we do the same thing at Arctic Wolf. We do our survey a little bit less frequently, and we've talked a lot about doing it more frequently, but we've ultimately landed on right now we do a big survey once a year, and then we do a pulse check every 6 months. So it's 2 surveys a year, one longer one short one. But I'm a huge fan of Culture Amp. I don't know if you haven't heard of from them, I definitely encourage the follow. If you're just a people geek, that's what they call themselves. They're always sharing amazing insights on culture and people and how to bring out the best of your people and impact your organization for the better. But they talk about, I've really latched onto this from them, but they talk about only surveying as much as you can action. Because essentially, if you're surveying all the time and you're not able to bring about any action from it, you're really can be harming your culture because you're breaking down trust. Because I don't know about you, but if my partner and if he was always coming to me for feedback and like acted like he really wanted to hear what I had to say and then like was doing nothing, I would be getting angry after a while. I'd be getting kind of resentful. So we have just accepted that we're not at a point where we can successfully action on a regular basis. We have a ton going on. I mentioned the hyper growth we're in right now, and the big goals we have. And so we survey twice a year and we just try to do it really well and keep the conversation going throughout the year. But I mentioned earlier, we've been talking about in this call, it's not just the surveying and getting the award, it's the things we're doing day in and day out to create that culture. And when it comes to surveys, I love thinking of them as an intentional conversation with your employees. And it's not one-sided, it's 2 ways. So when we ask for their feedback, we hear it and receive it, but then we come back to them. It's the starting point of a conversation, not the ending point of the conversation. So we look at the survey results, like Gabriella said, it's shared across the entire leadership team. As long as a manager has at least 3 employees that took the survey, they're able to see aggregate data. And then we encourage all leaders to come up with an action item. And that can look different for some teams. The HR team, our engagement is really strong as a whole. And so our action items the past couple of years has really been focused on great things. Like what can we do to keep our engagement strong? Because it is so strong right now. But one example, company-wide, we have seen an opportunity to improve well-being at work. And just hearing our employee feedback that it can be stressful and there's a lot going on. And we feel that too. Like I mentioned startup, like I like to use the analogy, we're building the plane as it's taking off. And I always joke that after like a couple months at Arctic Wolf, I upgraded that analogy to building the rocket ship as it's blasting through the stratosphere. It's like the wings not on, we're trying to build it, but we're flying through the air and I don't have the right tools. But it keeps us busy. So how do we create this environment that is countercultural where you don't have to pour from an empty cup and like take away from yourself in order to thrive? Because I think that is kind of the standard norm is like you give, you give up sleep, you give up time with your kids, and it'll be worth it for this outcome. But how do we create this culture where well-being fuels our well-doing? And instead of pouring from an empty cup, we are overflowing out of a place of abundance. And that's really hard to do. And this has remained our focus area for the last 3 years. And if I'm honest, like we haven't seen major spikes. The score hasn't decreased as well. So it's an ongoing journey for us, but some things we've done to move the needle in that area is we've trained well-being ambassadors. We call them Well Wolf ambassadors. We have ambassadors in all of the countries that we have offices and representation in our global remote PEC as well. But these are trained individuals that can be safe resources for people to talk to and to be a liaison to company resources. So if somebody is like struggling with mental health or going through a challenge, there's a peer they can talk to. If they don't want to talk to HR, they don't want to talk to their manager, or they're unsure of what resources are available to them, they can go to one of our Well Wolf ambassadors. We've also implemented things like the Wolves Walk. How do we make something like taking a walking meeting or taking the walk in the middle of your day just a part of our culture? Like it's not weird or normal to see people lapping the office or making a lap around, because we want our well-being to fuel our well-doing. So we're going to get up and move our bodies, even though most of us have desk jobs. Those are just 2 examples, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, but that's just an example of something that when we did our survey, we saw an opportunity that we knew we could action well and actually do something about and have worked with our employees to create some action around to improve the workplace experience. And that's at the global level. We have managers doing all sorts of things at the local level, but that's an example of something we've been working on at the company-wide level.
I love this, Mary, and it's interesting because that's actually one of the paths how people come to Dialogue. Because we're a wellness company, because we offer mental health programs, physical health programs, we'll see people say our office engagement surveys or employee engagement surveys are trending downwards, and we need to have real initiatives and tangible solutions to help people in their time of need. And then we'll see that we can integrate their benefit landscape with Dialogue. But it's so important, to your point, is what we do. And I just want to mention this because we're seeing a lot of discussion on the tools that we use and how do we see. For us, our employee engagement metric, we communicate it to our board on a quarterly basis. So we are committed to keeping that number strong, to measuring ourselves against the benchmarks and speaking to it so that we never will derail from our path and make our engagement just as high as a metric as our ARR, our EBITDA. So this is where we're very committed. And then this trickles down through the organization, as I had mentioned before. When it comes to initiatives for culture, I love all your wolf analogies. That's really wonderful. How ours has kind of translated is around our Dialogue University. So we launched, we're a young company as well. We're 9 years old. And we launched Dialogue University a couple of years ago. And we actually have a segment on culture that we teach twice per year, open to more even, depending on how our programming is set within the year. And that course is taught by our Chief Operating Officer and myself. So we really take the time to describe the Dialogue culture, who we are, how we want to be, and how do we protect this culture. We actually launched also last year a leadership development program, and we're able to pilot it and successfully bring it to a close. Actually, the 2024 program will come to a close at the end of March. And it was so successful to have this cohort, to have a university partnership here in Montreal to be able to elevate our leaders of tomorrow. And we actually announced this week that we were renewing the program for 2025 as well. This is a big week. It wasn't intentional, but certainly true. And then I will say, like, to your point, Mary, we also have councils and employee groups. For us, we use Slack as our communication platform. And in HR, I teach this all the time. There's a Slack channel for everything. If you like cats and you want to talk about your cat, if you like plants, a book club, sailing, running, I mean, I think the list goes on to be quite large. But how do we get people to connect to each other and make this strong and true? And most of these are actually driven by employees that have those ambition to reunite. And probably the last one that's been really meaningful for us is last year, we worked directly with our CEO on our core attributes. So we wanted to ask ourselves, when we hire at Dialogue, how do we continue to have the right people in the right seat who will come to Dialogue and thrive because we have shared attributes? So our 7 attributes are customer obsessed, grit, courage, entrepreneurial, growth mindset, judgment, and excellence. And we know that if you live by those attributes, you will find success at Dialogue. But from a culture perspective, what I found interesting is we actually flagged the anti-attributes, the red flags, because we see that people are many different shapes, size, forms, and our whole selves. And it may not just be the right place for you. So for us, it's job hoppers sometimes don't find a happy place here at Dialogue. A lot of the I over the we, the self-promoters, this isn't the environment we have. We're not just looking for kind of one person win. We really believe in the collaboration, in the collective mindset. And that's where we see we really have strength and kind of the know-it-alls. If you talk more than you listen, then you might not be able to find your place here, because when you're disrupting, you don't always know what the answer is. You got to think differently and strategically. And we also did the same for our values. So we refreshed our values this January, which is we always put our member first. We deeply care. We are Shackleton. So your wolf pack is our analogy on sailing. We play to win as a team and we keep it simple, but we also rolled out the anti-values. And this was new. We've always had values, and our values are not just on a wall. They really are part of who we are and how we identify ourselves at Dialogue. The anti-values for us that were new is negativity, drama politics, sloppiness, slowness, fixed mindset. And why these are meaningful is it helps people understand, where do you find yourself? How do you recognize the values that really unite us? And if you see actually an anti-value, how do you call it out, and how do you be truthful to one another? Because it's not to say you're in or you're out. It's how do you have collective feedback to be able to protect that culture and have honest conversations, sometimes difficult conversations, but that will help us elevate dialogue and our people.
I am obsessed, Gabriella. I feel like this whole anti-value concept is very innovative of you all. I love it.
It was very new, and it's interesting how grounding it is, Mary. Like I really, when we rolled it out, you take a bit of a risk, right? This was new, and we're not trying to point to anyone because actually we believe people live by our values at Dialogue, but it helped really clarify kind of the spectrum, if you want.
Well, totally. And I think to your point, like you're not trying to shame anybody or put anyone in a hole. Like you even said, like you value a growth mindset and it's giving people the opportunity to grow. Like if you find yourself in the know-it-all camp, you can grow into, hey, I want to support others, grow from perspective. And I can just add on to that really quick. I mean, we did the same thing at Arctic Wolf a couple of years ago. We were growing so fast. In 2 years. We went from, I mentioned earlier, 500 to 2,000 from 2 countries to a bunch of countries. And we knew that we believed our culture was a differentiator, but we knew we might lose it really fast, just because, not because of anyone's ill will or ill intent, but just because we were growing so fast, it could get diluted or lost really fast, as in 2 years' time, just having hundreds of people outnumber the original culture creators and that safe haven we had created. So as a team and leadership team, it took 9 months, but we really worked to define who are we, not only who are we, but who do we want to be, because we wanted to be able to communicate that to all of our new hires so that they knew what success looked like. Hey, to be successful here, we have a lot of similar ones, like you foster pack unity, you listen, learn, and teach. You're accountable, you put security first, etc. We wanted to define what did it look like to be a member of the pack so that people could like actually be successful because they weren't wondering. And then we deeply incorporated that into all of our things, from recognition to onboarding to our performance review process, as just a way. But I think it is so important to define for people so they know where they're going or not going in your case.
And that's an important specific point, Mary, is that it's everywhere, right? So like when I look at values are in performance reviews, we give kudos. So we have a kudos channel in our Slack again, where people will say like, Mary really deeply cares and she did this week and highlighted this, but it's employee to employee, peer to peer, of course, leader to employee as well, but it's really meant to unite us around those values and not just be a poster, really be in our culture. And it makes a difference because then people are repeating them, telling stories. We give awards on Shackleton as a value, but also as the effort and the consistency and the perseverance that people give. So that's a good point to not forget, that values are key, but it's how you live by them and how you breathe by them that really helps to define that culture.
Amazing. I'm just looking at the time here, and so I would love to ask one more question before we head up into the wrap up, if that's okay. So after talking all about these, anti-values or how to build the culture, I was curious to hear from you what role recognition might play in building a culture. So in your experience, what makes a recognition program really effective? How has your organization embedded recognition in a meaningful way?
Maybe I'll just, because I was just mentioning it before, Rebecca, really is that it is not one single person's job. So it's not the CEO's job to build recognition and culture. It's not, I mean, the title of our department is Talent and Culture, but it is not only our department's responsibility, this culture. Every single person has a role to play. And Mary, when you were talking about co-creation, that's been really successful initiatives for us, of working with this leadership program I just spoke about, but also employees with different levels, with different roles and responsibilities and different functions. How do you create those groups to co-create together has been really, really important to us. And also just to have that essence of being able to demonstrate people who successfully live and breathe by your culture. So maybe the last one I didn't elaborate on, but every year we do a kickoff, and for us, kickoff is beyond sales. I didn't realize this. It was just someone in January that made me realize the dialogue is so great because we invite all of our corporate employees, not just one department, and that person had seen kind of different flavors. And we had an award night, again on the theme of awards, and we have employees going to the stage. For us, it's Shackleton because we were tied to this great sailor that had the ambition in 1914 to cross the Antarctic and was out there for 2 years, where they went through, if ever you Google him, Ernest Shackleton, it is quite the journey they went through. However, he did, at this time, diversity inclusion was different. Not one single man was lost in this treacherous journey in ice and darkness, and with very different resources in 1914. And this is something that we continue because when we're doing disruption, when we're thinking of different programs to launch, different ways of approaching healthcare, we need people that want to reach these ambitions and do it with their team, right? Ernest was in his boat with all of his sailors as one team going through and without ever leaving anyone behind. And that's the way we see our collaboration, our contributions, and it's tied together. So I find that there's kind of the different ways that you look at recognition and that you make them meaningful so people can find themselves within that culture and see either who they are and be recognized and also aspire to where they want to be as they continue to grow and develop a dialogue.
Awesome. Mary or Alison?
I love all of what Gabriella shared, and I can relate. At Arctic Wolf, we do a lot of similar things, but I'll maybe just touch on your question, Rebecca, of how do we embed recognition into our culture in a meaningful way. And I'm a huge, like probably everybody else in the world, James Clear Atomic Habits fan. And he talks about the 4 laws of behavior change: make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. I'm blanking on the 4th one at the moment, but we, like Rebecca mentioned at the beginning, we are part of the Bucketlist family, and we're able to use Bucketlist to make recognition easy and satisfying and remove obstacles in getting it done. So new hires, when they join, they get 50 star coins. We call them star coins. I think technically we just rebranded them to fit. We've named Bucketlist Arctic All Stars internally. But so we call them star coins because we call it Arctic All Stars. But new hires get 50 star coins right when they start to say, hey, we're so excited you're here. Here's a welcome award. Use this to recognize and thank people that have helped you on your onboarding journey. And then at 6 months, they get another award, like really trying to get them in the habit of using the app within their first 6 months. But then every month there's automatic reminders that go to the teams to remind them like, hey, you have 50 star coins. If you haven't used them, they're expiring. So it is just like a natural part of our culture. And of course, like make it satisfying. There's that reward. If you receive star coins, you can use that to get gift cards from Starbucks to Disney, etc. But then like Gabriella was talking about, we use all those bucket list nominations. They're all tied to our values and our culture tenets. But then we'll use those nominations every 6 months. That we also include everybody at company kickoff. And at our company kickoff meeting, we
Don't take it lightly, Mary. Not everyone does this. I learned this
yes.
in January.
But yes, we use Bucketlist. We use those nominations to surface what we call bright spots. And it's people we want to recognize at the all company global level to say, hey, we see you living out our values and we want to celebrate you for that as a bright spot and someone to like look at and model after. So it's not this other nomination form. It's not this other initiative. It's just built in the ecosystem of what we're doing. And again, it comes back to the pride and the co-creation. It's something we're all building together, and people love being able to celebrate others, but also who doesn't love getting a little note that says, hey, thank you, I really appreciate you. For us, it really fosters and upholds our run as a pack mentality that we're going to celebrate and recognize each other, but then you also feel celebrated and recognized.
Yeah.
So
And it roots them in their purpose, you know, like because it's such, culture is so powerful and strong that when you have an active voice in culture, everything you're describing, Mary, like even the terms that Arctic Wolf has developed, it just grounds those roots deep into the purpose of individuals and the organization. That's really powerful.
Just picking up on what you both said, from what our research is telling us, the two most important tenets of recognition as a way to build culture is tying it somehow to the values, as you talked about, Gabriella. So being really anchored in the values and the behaviors that you want to recognize. I think that's number one. And number two is really this notion of habit formation, right? So you need a tool that's going to make it easy for everybody to recognize often. And I think Bucketlist is a great tool for doing that. So love the actual practical application of it, and those two principles I would say are the most important from what our data shows.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much. And just for the audience, I apologize for bombarding you, but I just threw up a poll. If you're interested in learning about Arctic Wolf or dialogue or a great place to work, just let us know in the poll, and someone from the respective teams will be happy to reach out and share more information. I've also put the professional development credits in the chat. We have a minute left. Panelists, was there anything else you wanted to leave with folks really quickly?
I can go. Listen to your employees. That's the number one way you're going to build your culture, is by listening and reacting to what they tell you.
I would just say, I saw someone say in the chat, my company doesn't do any of these things. And I would just want to encourage you that the little things make a difference, and the way, don't underestimate just the power of like the impact you have on your team. You never know the impact you have on somebody, and small things do add up to big things. It's worth the effort, and it's worth the journey.
I want to tell you that it's so important to have clarity breaks and to think about what's going on out there, Mary, as you're saying, and to listen, Alison. So that also means take time for yourself to find out what's going on, to reach in your community. If you want to know any of us, find us on LinkedIn and connect, because this is where we can elevate each other and really reinforce the strength of, at one point, we didn't have awards. At one point, we didn't have anti-values, and we can really lean on each other. So please, we often prioritize everything else but ourselves. And maybe that's the one time I want to say I is okay as well. Certainly when in the end, you end up giving back.
Amazing. So great. Thank you so much for this discussion, panelists, and for folks in the chat too. Lots of great things were shared. And just, I want to throw out this kudos to Mary, Gabriella, Alison. Someone said that y'all spoke so well. You should speak at CultureCon. And I think that is a huge, huge recognition. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you everyone for joining into this one.